And today I just wanted to start with introduction to the vSphere concepts. I mean, just a recap that yesterday we have gone through the introduction to the virtualization, we have learned about introduction topics to virtualization, what exactly it is, how many types of virtualization do we have, like the operating system virtualization, and the hardware, application, desktop, and the server virtualization. And then we have seen what exactly the server virtualization is, how does it look like before virtualization and after virtualization. From there we have moved need for the virtualization, why should actually we need the virtualization, and how the world exists without virtualization. From there we have moved on to the benefits of virtualization, and then the vendors or the competitors in the virtualization like Microsoft, VMware, Citrix, and a couple of other like the Oracle and the other guys. From there we have moved to uh, uh, to understand what exactly the hypervisor is, that abstraction layer and types of hypervisors, right? That's the general understanding of virtualization. Be it any virtualization solution do you have, it is the same. Okay, and today we are trying to understand the VMware specific topics. I told you in the year of 2007 or 2006, VMware has launched vSphere 6.0, right? Sorry, VI3, Virtual Infrastructure 3 6.0, and then uh, this is exactly I was talking about. Okay, so and then they had when they have VI3 released in 2006, and in the following years, maybe in the year of 2009, they had vSphere 4.0 released. Okay, so when they have the 4.0 released, what all products come into it is what we have seen so far. I'm just confused. Did we saw this particular slide yesterday? No. Uh,
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry because I have at least 3 to 4 classes going on every day, so I'm just confused. I'm so sorry for that. Then we just saw until ESX and until the hypervisor, right? What exactly the hypervisor is and all that. So today probably this is the agenda that I've got for you, to say history of VMware, and then I'll talk about the vSphere services, what exactly the vSphere, and how to leverage the vSphere services, to build the entire data center virtualization space. And then we will talk about the components and features of vSphere. Of course, we go over the course outline which we did yesterday, right? That's nice. Let's move on. This is exactly the history of VMware. Like I said, VMware is a company. VMware is an American software company that provides cloud and virtualization software services. Okay, and VMware was the first company to successfully virtualize x86 architecture on a commercial platform. Okay, the company was founded in the year of 1998, but they have released the first enterprise class product in the year of 2001. So that is 3 years after the company was formed. And then in the year of 2003, they've got the ESX server, vCenter, and a key feature called vMotion. So don't confuse what vCenter is, what vMotion is. I'm just trying to go over the milestones that they have achieved over a period of 17 years. But we go in detail. We will try to understand what exactly vSphere is, vCenter is, and all that. Fine. And then in the year of 2004, the EMC acquired the VMware company. Salman, do you have any question to ask?
No.
No? Can you please mute yourself?
Yeah.
Salman from Chicago town, I guess. I see you are on mute, so let me put you on mute myself. Okay. Well, so in the year of 2004, EMC acquired the company called VMware. So from then it has become one of the acquisition of VMware. In the year of 2006, VMware has released a major product, a product suite called VI3, Virtual Infrastructure 3. So Virtual Infrastructure 3, what exactly it is? Well, uh, as we all know, the Microsoft Office, MS Office, right? So MS Office, when you say, it is not a single product or a software, it has got group of products inside it, like Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, right? So similarly, one second. I'm sorry. Yeah. So okay. So from then, uh, in the year of 2006, like I said, VI3 was released. Like how we say Microsoft Office is not a single product, but it is a collection of softwares. VI3 is not a single software, but it is a name given to collection of softwares. That VI3 includes your ESX server, your vCenter, your update manager, vSphere client, and a couple of other softwares. And from then, in the year of 2009, VMware has released a product called vSphere 4.0. It is VI3, which is a virtual infrastructure 3. 3 is a version. In the year of 2009, they've released a product called vSphere 4. So what is that vSphere 4? So vSphere 4 is just a rename to VI3. The reason that they've renamed is because it looks like very standard, right? The virtual infrastructure. If you have the Hyper-V, the Microsoft virtualization solution in your data center, it is called virtual infrastructure. If you have Linux virtualization solution in your data center, it is called virtual infrastructure. So be it any virtualization solution you have, it is still called virtual infrastructure. So VMware thought it is the most generic word in IT. So let's have a special name, a proprietary name for our products itself. Then they've renamed VI to vSphere, and 4 is like the version. So vSphere 4. vSphere 4 was the major release, and they've got very great success in that, in that product suite. It was released in the year of 2009, and in the year of 2015, we have got vSphere 6.0. Of course, in between we had vSphere 5, 5.0, 5.5, and of course 6.0. Latest, we have 6.5 as well in the year of 2016. Okay, so this is at a high level understanding of what the VMware is, and their milestones, their achievements from a data center virtualization product standpoint. Well, so with that said, let me quickly move on to the vSphere services. Well, you may ask me a question, Venkat. So far you have been talking about the vSphere. What exactly it is, right? So like I said earlier, vSphere is a name given to collection of softwares, right? vSphere is formally known as, it's like virtual infrastructure 4, and it is actually VMware Cloud Virtualization Software Suite. Okay, so you can also say, there are many names, like I said, but the core understanding of it is like vSphere is a name given to VMware suite of virtualization products. It is a suite of products. It is not just one product or two, but there are some set of products. So before 2009, VMware vSphere was known as virtual infrastructure. That's the understanding you should have. Okay, from then, if you wanted to understand what exactly the vSphere is, well, there is something called clients. Okay, users can access your environment. A client is like, let's say you have Gmail is in the Google data center, but in order to access the Gmail, you need a client called the browser. Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Firefox, Opera, or n number of browsers out there. You can use any one of the client. We call that client as a browser, and we log into the Gmail, and we send mails, receive mails, read them through. It can be any other mail functionality that we have, like the Yahoo Mail or anything. So here also, when I say client, it can be it can be a PuTTY, it can be a web browser based client, or it can be a vSphere client which they have developed for their products. So right, it can be one of them. And then there is something called vCenter server. If you guys remember yesterday, I've shown you the ESX servers, and did I did not. Okay, so normally ESXi servers or the base platform of the virtualization. So How does a ESX server looks like? Well, let me go over it. So let's say this is your ESX server, and this ESX server, when I say ESX, let's say hypervisor, right? What is a hypervisor that we've studied yesterday? It is a virtualization layer, or it is a abstraction layer between your physical server and the guest operating systems or the virtual machines, right? Virtual machine. Now, this host, the physical server, is hosting a virtual machine over there, and there are many of such virtual machines. It can be somewhere 20 or 30. Okay, this is a ESX host, and there can be multiple ESX servers. There can be multiple ESX servers. This can be like you've got some 20 ESX servers over here, 20 ESX over there. Okay, so 1 to 20. Each ESX server has got 30 virtual machines. So 20 into 30, that is like 600 virtual machines, and some 20 ESX servers. How can you manage all 20 ESX servers and 600 virtual machines in a single console? It is little tough job for you. Okay, so I mean, at this point of time, I know you don't understand all these ESX servers, virtual machine and all that, but the point that I'm trying to make here is your vCenter help you do the centralized administration. Okay, from a single console you should be able to manage multiple ESX servers, and you should be able to do that kind of centralized administration, automation, monitoring, and many more things. Okay, your vCenter server contribute to that, and you've got application services. Okay, for example, like I said yesterday, VMware gives you inbuilt high availability. If one of the server fails, virtual machines running inside that host will be automatically protected using the functionality called HA. Right, so that is how it is. So your application services are something like the high availability, fault tolerance, scalability, meaning you can increase the amount of CPU and memory on the fly when the when your machine is up and running. Okay, we will do all that in practical going forward, but for now just try to understand it conceptually from a future standpoint. And we've got the infrastructure level services, wherein you just can virtualize your storage, virtualize your network, virtualize your server, which is a base platform which will abstract your physical server, and it translate those resources into virtual machine consumable resource. That's something cool, right? Well, now if you try to understand this particular diagram, it's really good, man. If you try understanding it and see how well you can do that. So whatever I put over here, the client's infrastructure, that is a diagrammatical representation over here. Firstly, the infrastructure level services. I told you any server would have 4 critical resources: CPU, network, storage, memory. So CPU and memory together called as the compute, storage, and network. I've requested you all guys to write at least 2 pages of notes on how to create, how to how the CPU works, or how memory works, how network devices work, or how storage work, all that stuff. When you say storage, what exactly the hard disk is, or all that stuff, right? So uh, so the infrastructure services, that is your abstraction layer, will virtualize your compute, which is your CPU and memory, will virtualize your storage, will virtualize your network. That's where you get the infrastructure, the base platform ready. On top of that, you have got your application services, that is your high availability, your security, your scalability, right? So that you have the inbuilt high availability. One of the hosts down due to physical failure, OS failure, you still can protect your virtual machines. You always, your virtual machines are in secure way. I mean, the other machine that is lying on the same server will never get to know that it is running on top of an abstraction layer and they can actually communicate to each other. That is not possible. And the scalability, like I say, the virtual machine can be from one CPU to 128 CPUs altogether. 128. So you can have a bare minimum of 1 GB RAM to some 4 TB of RAM to a virtual machine, right? That's the kind of great scalability that it has to offer you. Okay, and from there you've got a vCenter server. Like I said, vCenter server is a Windows based application that monitors, that centralizedly administrates, that automates, that gives you a lot of other functionality like the integration or the API calls, many other stuff. Okay, so that's called your vCenter. That can that has the ability to manage 1,000 ESX servers, 10,000 virtual machines. Okay, so that's the kind of scalability your vCenter server can provide. On top of that, you have got a couple of clients which can access your ESX or the vCenter server environment. For example, vSphere client. So vSphere client is a graphical user interface client that was developed by VMware using your C#.NET programming language. You don't have to know the programming language, but it was developed using that programming language. So vSphere client. And then you've got a web client. Web client is nothing but your browser. It can be any supported browser. It can be your Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, right? Those are all in the supported list. You can use them. And vSphere SDK, that is software development kit. Using the SDK, you can develop your own software if at all you wanted to. You can develop your own client with which you can interact with vCenter or the ESX server. Of course, there are other clients as well, like the PuTTY. Few of you might aware that the PuTTY client, it is a command line interface we all use to log into the servers and make use of the command line interface of the server, right? And then uh, history. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Yeah. So like I said, for me to explain you the components, what is ESXi, what is vCenter, what is a vSphere client, web client, VMFS, and all that stuff. Let's take the baby steps one after the other. Even if you don't understand any of the component here, don't worry, because this is just again a high level introduction of the components to you. First thing, VMware ESXi. So 40 or 50% of our course, we are going to focus on this particular tool. This is like the hypervisor. Do you all, I mean, you all understand the hypervisor concept. Hypervisor is an abstraction layer, is a virtualization software that sits as a layer in between the physical server and the virtual machine. So ESXi is a type 1 hypervisor, is a type 1 hypervisor developed by VMware. That's all about it. ESXi is a type 1 hypervisor. And then vCenter server. vCenter, like I said, it is a management server. Okay, it can manage multiple ESX servers and virtual machines from a single console, and it can do integration. And you've got your vSphere client. Like I said, vSphere client is a C# based application using which you can either connect to vCenter or connect to ESX server. It can be used to connect to both the servers. And you've got vSphere web client. I said it is a web based client. It is just your browser using which you still can connect to vCenter and can do the administrative activities. Well, like I said, it is first part is the components. The components are done. The second part is the features. So the features of VMware. So the features, the core features of VMware, one of them is VMFS, vSphere Virtual Machine File System. So Virtual Machine File System is VMware's proprietary file system. Like the Windows operating system, we know that it is a NTFS file system. The Linux operating system, we know it is a ext3, ext4, ext5 file systems. If it is a different operating system, you would have a different file system. Similarly, VMware has got its own file system called VMFS, right? So and you've got vSphere, vMotion, and DRS. So what is it? Well, let's talk about the same example that I said. You've got a ESX over here. You got one more ESX over here. There are two ESX servers in short. If there are virtual machines on top of this, like this, like this, and if this ESX server is running at 80% utilization and this is just running at 20% utilization, you just can move offload some 80%. From 80% you can move some 30% of load onto the other ESX server without any downtime to the virtual machines, meaning there is no interruption to the virtual machines. The virtual servers are continue to be power on, and the users are connected to the machine, and they are actually making use of the services of the machine. But this machine is actually put onto a different ESX server. That's called the vMotion. That's called the vMotion. So we will go in deep about that topic, but I'm just giving you an idea of what features does vSphere provides you. All right, and then this is a manual process that every time you have to go there, look at the ESX host utilization. If there is any imbalance between the hosts, that is considerable imbalance, it is 80% and the other is 20%, then you may consider to move some workload in order to bring the balancing, the load balancing. Well, if you can automate that process, that's called the DRS, distributed resource scheduler. When you enable it, it continuously monitor all your ESX servers, and if at all any host is highly loaded and there is a lightly weighted host as well, it just picks some load and moves it on to the other one which is lightly loaded, right? That way you can bring the efficiency into your environment. And then you've got storage vMotion. So far we have talking about ESX server. Let's say you have got something called D drive and you have got something called E drive, D drive, E drive or F drive. So if E drive is running at 90% D drive and F drive is just running at 10%, and if you can move some files from D drive to E drive, it's like really cool, right? But if you guys ever try to move a file while you are accessing it, let's say you have got a movie file over here, open it up using one of the media player, watch it. While you are watching, try to cut it from here and paste it here. See what happens. It will never allow you to do that. So it says there is a program that is accessing the file. Make sure that you close all the programs and try, right? So this will not allow you to do it. But in VMware, if you have in VMware, we don't call it as D drive, E drive, but we call it as data store. If one of the data store is full and the other data store is not, you can certainly move some workload from the the highly utilized data store to lowly utilized data store. That's called the storage of vMotion. And you also got a cool feature called HA. This is what I was talking about. If you have a ESX server and that ESX server fails for some reason, VMs that are running inside that ESX can be automatically protected, meaning that those VMs can be made available on a different host within minutes from the failure of the host. Okay, that's called HA. Well, the fault tolerance is a business continuity solution, meaning there is no downtime at all. In the event of HA, there is possibility of 2 to 5 minutes of downtime. But let's say there are some applications that cannot afford even the 2 to 5 minutes of downtime. They need the application to available every single second. In that situation, you can go use the fault tolerant as an option. Then you would achieve that kind of high availability, right? So that's about the features that you have got. This is about your vSphere, guys, right? So ask me questions if you have from this particular module, and I have something else for you for today. But this is what we have covered. I've briefed you about history. We went ahead at the vSphere services, what exactly vSphere is, and the components of it and the features of it. Course outline, anyways, we have seen it yesterday. So quickly ask me the questions while I'm bringing up the other module for you. No questions? Come on, make use of the interactive classes, man. So seems you understand it. I mean, see, one request to you all is, if you don't understand something, just stop me and ask me the question. That way, you can clear all your doubts. Yeah, Pradeep.
Yes, sir.
I see that you unmute yourself. So do you have any question to ask?
No, just I was familiar with everything. Yeah, it was good here.
Okay. So thank you.
Yes, are you going to send us the copy of those introduction to, I mean, for the previous class?
I'm sorry, I missed you. What was that?
I need to see you can send some material for this introduction.
Yeah, what I do is I'm recording all these sessions. I'm going to share them. I'll put them on the Google Drive. I'll give you the access so that you can watch them through when you have some time. Okay, so
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
okay, that's nice. Let's go ahead with the module here. Yeah, this is one of my favorite topic, ESXi install and configure. And today we will go over the introduction topics of ESX, guys. I mean, I want you to pay a lot of attention here. This is such an important topic that I would expect all of you to be very much familiar, very much familiar. Okay, so if you understand this, and probably you understand the very basics of your virtualization platform. Well, so with that said, the agenda that I've got for you for this module is what is VMware ESX and ESXi. Okay, the differences between ESX and ESXi. Well, the other slide, just the one that we just completed the module, we have talked about the components of vSphere. I said VMware ESX is one of the component, vCenter is one of the component, and I give you a one-liner description. I said VMware ESX is a type 1 hypervisor. That's all. But now I am taking a step ahead and taking you a deep dive session in making you understand what is ESX and ESXi, and the comparison between them and the configuration maximums. What is that you need to install an ESX server? How can you install it? Once you install, what are you going to do it? If you see here the post installation steps, if you remember the Windows 2012 installation and configuration, once you're done installing it, there is a lot of checklist that we went through in order to configure it. It could be changing the host name, configuring the IP address, disabling the firewalls, making a static IP, the DNS, whatnot, right? Many, disabling the doing the Windows update, many other things, time zone configuration, all that. So similarly, you have to take care of the post installation steps in ESXi. So not just in ESXi, any operating system that you deal with have to take care of this particular step of post installation steps. But of course, depending upon the operating system, the steps or the process, the graphical user interface may be different, but the process is same, the ideology is same, right? So I want all of you to understand at that level of the base. Okay, you just don't be very narrow down to the topics that I'm talking here, and try not to be a product level guy than a technology guy. Got it? Fantastic. So let's start. What is VMware ESX and ESXi? So VMware ESXi or VMware ESX is an enterprise class type 1 hypervisor developed by VMware for deploying and serving virtual computers. So I'm sorry. Yeah. So as you see here, the VMware ESXi or ESX is an enterprise class type 1 hypervisor. Guys, now you guys tell me how many of you have understand the hypervisor concept that I said yesterday. I said hypervisor is an abstraction layer, right? That sits between your ESX, that sits between your hardware and the operating system and the virtual machine, and it makes sure that each virtual machine gets its own portion of the resources, right? So its own portion of the resources. It will make sure that there is a security. It will make sure that every machine is connected to the network. It will make sure that it will get the storage allotted, right? So the duty of ESX server is certainly to make sure it gives us the virtualization platform wherein we can go there and create multiple virtual machines and install the operating system of our choice, uh, and it makes sure that it does the administration job and all. Okay, so now you can see here it is a type 1 hypervisor. That's all. If tomorrow, guys, I'm repeating it again, I want you to be a technology guys than a product. If tomorrow somebody come and say, hey, I am using Microsoft Hyper-V, and if they say Hyper-V is a type 1 hypervisor, you certainly don't have to look back and search through the internet, search through Google. Hey, what is this type 1? I just know ESXi because I went through the training and know it. What is this Hyper-V? I mean, I don't want you to be in that situation. This hypervisor concept is industry standard. If somebody says Citrix Zen server is a type 1 hypervisor, then you know, hey, type 1 hypervisor is actually a bare metal operating system. It is an operating system itself, so it can go directly get installed on top of the hardware. When somebody says type 2 hypervisor, well, it is an application, and I've explained you the difference between operating system and the application. Got it? That's all. So VMware ESXi is a type 1 enterprise class hypervisor developed by VMware for deploying and serving the virtual computers. That's all. Don't go any further. Now, uh, as you see the two architectural diagrams here, this is the ESX architecture and this is ESXi architecture. Well guys, as you studied the history of VMware, VMware was founded in the year of 1998 and they have released first enterprise class hypervisor, type 1 hypervisor in the year of 2001. So that 3 years of journey that they have done, what did they do is, one second, yeah. So what did they do is, in the year of 2001, in order to bring this ESX 1.0, they certainly need an operating system. They were, in that quick time of 3 years, they were not able to develop their own operating system. So they've used Linux operating system. They have used Linux operating system. And on top of that, they've built virtualization code. So what does that virtualization code does? It is a virtualization layer that makes sure it gives you an interface to create virtual machines. It makes sure that each virtual machine gets its own portion of the hardware resources, security, blah blah blah, all that stuff, right? So in the year of 2001, they have used Linux operating system. Why did they use Linux operating system? Because the Linux operating system is an open source platform. You can take the base kernel and you can customize it to your needs. You can customize the user interface, you can customize the code, you can customize the functionality. So that's why they used the Linux operating system and they built the virtualization code on top of it. So it has become the ESX 1.0. But later point of time, they have released in the year of 2006, they've released ESXi operating system. What is a ESXi operating system? Well, for your understanding, both ESX and ESXi is type 1 hypervisor. Okay, even ESXi is also a type 1 hypervisor, but the major difference between ESX and ESXi is ESXi is a complete operating system developed by VMware itself. Developed by VMware. It is not a Linux operating system. It is a VMware's operating system on their own. So from 1998, 2001, they've released the first version. So since they did not have much of a time, they've leveraged the Linux operating system. But later, they thought, why to use the Linux operating system? Let's have our own operating system, because there is a lot of adaptation in the virtualization space. Everybody was coming onto it. So then they've actually leveraged, I mean, they've actually took up the advantage, and they've created their own operating system. That was a big success for them. Okay, this is developed by VMware. So both the operating systems were type 1, but the only difference is ESXi is built upon the Linux operating system. Sorry, ESX is built upon the Linux operating system. ESXi built upon their own operating system. It's their own kernel altogether. So if you ask me the full form of ESX and ESXi, VMware officially never give any kind of definition, the acronym, the full form of it, anywhere. But on the blogs, we see it is called Elastic Sky X. Elastic Sky X. So here I'm trying to explain you the architecture between the ESX and ESXi. Uh, Guys, you always keep it in mind. ESX is built upon the Linux operating system. ESXi is their own operating system. Let's study the Linux the kernel. So the first piece is, it is called the service console. So VMware do not wanted to call the Linux operating system as is, but they wanted to call it as a service console. So when you power on the ESX operating system, first thing that boots up is the Linux operating system. Once it boots up, once it initializes its operating system, that's when the kernel, the VM kernel, which is a program that supports your virtualization, get initialized. Okay, so uh, as you see, if you wanted to interact with the ESX server and do some administration stuff, that you have to use your Linux commands. And if the host is being monitored, that is by your Linux. If the host is being managed, that is by your Linux. If the host is doing your syslog NTP, that is time configuration, everything. So any administration task that is actually done by your Linux operating system. Only the virtualization platform is with the VMware kernel, the VMware operating system. Okay, when I compare the same with the ESXi kernel, here everything is managed by the ESX alone. I mean ESXi operating system. There is no service console concept here. Service console. So guys, people may ask you in the interview, what is the difference between ESX, ESXi, right? So you can certainly see here the service console. You certainly say service console. They will ask you, what is a service console? Well, VMware calls the Linux operating system that they have used in the initial days as the service console. That's all it is. Well, hope you got the concept. Now this is the same, some write-up about the differences. This is a tabular representation of the difference between ESX and ESXi. So service console, it is present in ESX, but it's never exists in ESXi, right? Because a service console is nothing but the Linux operating system. The troubleshooting is done via, so if there is a problem in your ESX server, how will you get there? Using your service console, because it is all Linux operating system. You still have to execute the Linux commands in order to fix something. But in ESXi, they have got their own shell, their own commands. But one catch here is the ESX commands also more or less looks like the Linux commands, but it is not a Linux kernel. It is not a Linux kernel. And then the management network, well, management network is nothing but to get there to manage the ESX server. What is that you are using? That is again the service console here. But here in ESXi, you have got a VM kernel interface, a dedicated interface to get there to the ESX server and to manage it. Jumbo frames is a standard network terminology. It is to deliver the bigger packet size. The standard packet size is one second guys, I just don't remember it. This is what happens when I do multiple sessions. Oh, okay. So the standard packet size is for 1500 bytes. Okay. So what is a packet? A packet is for example, if you wanted to transfer some 10 MB of file from your laptop or from your device to the internet, this 10 MB is broken down into the small pieces, right? So the biggest chunk of data that can be transported over the network is called the packet. The biggest data chunk So let's say you have got some 1 ton or let's say 10 tons of rice with you, 10 tons of rice bag, but in a single container, how much rice can you put in there? 1 ton. Okay, so all that entire 10 tons of rice has to broken down into small pieces, maybe 1 ton, 1 ton, 1 ton, so that that can fit into a container. Similarly, the 10 MB of data that you have to broken down to the small pieces, right? That piece is the biggest packet size, the biggest data size that can transport over the network. So this packet size is universal in the entire internet. It is same for me, for you, for anybody on the internet. It is not like in India it is a different, in US it is a different. No, it is a standard across the internet. So the normal packet size is 1500 bytes. 1500 bytes. So no matter you are trying to transport 100 MB, 10 MB, 2 MB, 1 TB, 2 TB, 10 TB, all that has to break down into a small piece as small as 1500 bytes. Okay, so jumbo frames is a concept of sending the packets in bigger size. That is, the maximum size is 9000 bytes. 9000 bytes. So but for the jumbo frames there is a separate requirement. You need to have a bigger network cables, bigger network switches and all. It's a different thing, a different study. But yes, jumbo frames is since it is a standard networking technology, it is supported in both the places. And then hardware monitoring. For example, if there is some problem on your laptop, if your Windows 7 or Windows 10 operating system can tell you, hey, memory module is faulty, that's called the hardware monitoring. So your operating system has got the built-in monitoring or not. Well, your Linux operating system do not have the built-in monitoring. It has to have a third-party agents, but your ESX server, ESXi, has got the built-in monitoring tool in there. Boot from SAN is a technology. It is again a standard standard data center technology. It is not specific to VMware. Even the jumbo frames is a standard data center technology. It is not specific to VMware. So boot from SAN is again supported in both the places, right? It is to boot when you power on your laptop. It has the operating system installed on your local hard disk, so it boots from your local hard disk. But boot from SAN is like there is a storage system that is sitting remotely. So you can boot your operating system without a hard disk, but over the network. Software patches and updates. Well, the software patches are needed that are similar to the Linux operating system, because it is a Linux operating system. Whenever there is a patch available for Linux, you have to apply it. But here very few patches are required because this operating system is not known by many, so there is less security threat. And VMware releases very less software patches, be it security patch or product enhancement or a bug fix, because it is very small footprint. You know what? The ESXi operating system is about 4 GB in size, whereas your ESXi is about 200 MB in size. Where is 4 GB? Where is 200 MB? Right? So that's the kind of it. So web access is like the browser-based access. It is not supported in ESX, but it is supported in ESXi, because ESXi is the latest version and it is what being continued. For your information, ESX is discontinued after 4.1 version. ESX is discontinued. It is no longer available. Only version that we have is, only flavor that we have is ESXi, and the latest version that we have today in the market is 6.5. Okay, so ESX is discontinued after 4.1. So I mean, it's been a couple of years that it is not at all available in the market. Again, scripted installation is again an industry standard technology that is available. That is basically to automate the installation of your ESX servers. There are a couple of, I mean, when you have to install many number of ESX servers, maybe 20, 30, 40, manual installation every time, maybe a little time consuming process. For that, you can write a script. That script will take care of your installation. So it is supported in both the areas, because the scripted installation is again an industry standard installation. You can use this method to install your Linux operating system, your Windows, and so the VMware. VMA is a command line utility. It is similar to VMware vCenter, but vCenter is a graphical user interface. VMA is a command line interface. Not a much popular one, but still, it supports both your ESX and ESXi operating systems. and measure your, most of your administration is done through this particular command line utility called ESXCFG hyphen, be it a network, storage, whatever the command follows here. So ESXCFG is a prefix that is common for all your commands, the centralized command line utility. In ESXi, ESXCLI is a command line utility that is central. So if you wanted to configure networking, storage, security, updates, patches, whatever it is, ESXCLI is standard over there. Okay, so auto deploy is another automation of the ESX installation. So scripted installation is one part which is the industry standard. Auto deploy is a VMware proprietary software that is discovered to automate the ESX installation. It is not supported in ESX because it is a Linux kernel, but ESXi is, it is fully supported. So when you have to deploy hundreds of ESX servers in one go, auto deploy is a right solution for you. Custom image creation, well, I've told you how important, and you've got to know part of your hardware plus server hardware course, how important the firmware level upgrade is, how important the drivers are. So custom image creation is, let's say you wanted to install this ESX on a Dell server, and if Dell has got some customized hardware pieces over there, you certainly can have those drivers installed, put into the ESXi image, and when you install the image along with the operating system, your drivers also get installed. To have such kind of environment, you can do a custom image creation that is supported in your ESX but not in ESXi. Sorry, that supports in your ESXi but not in ESX. Well, there is a network interface called VM kernel. So VM kernel is actually used for your vMotion, fault tolerance, storage connectivity in ESX server, but the same VM kernel interface is actually used for your management network also in ESX. Got it? So that's actually a tabular wise comparison between your ESX and ESXi server. Of all this explanation, you are required to remember at least maybe 4 or 5 points, major points that can differentiate the core core differences between ESX and ESXi, or the major differences. If somebody asks you in the interview, you should be able to tell them this is what it is. Moving on, the ESX configuration maximums. Since we have ESXi only in the market today, we are talking about the configuration maximums, meaning what is the maximum configuration that your ESXi supports. It's the same thing I try to put here in the tabular manner. I try to put here in the write-up here. Let me refer you to the table here. So cluster nodes per cluster. In the earlier version, that is your 5.5, we can have 32 ESX servers in a cluster. That is a maximum number. But in 6.0, we can have 64 ESX servers, ESXi servers in a cluster. So what is a cluster? How do you create it? How do you install it? It is a different learning. For now, I'm just trying to explain you the configuration maximums. And then VMs per cluster. We used to have 4,000 VMs per cluster, the maximum. But now you can have 8,000 virtual machines per cluster. Why is it so? It is because the number of ESX servers have doubled from 30 to 64. So the virtual machines have also been doubled from 4,000 to 8,000. Maximum CPU count, well, it is 320. Okay, but now it is actually 480. Meaning 480 physical servers that it supports on a physical server. Guys, my laptop just has got one socket and 4 cores. Probably you might have seen the same, but if you remember, I told you part of the hardware discussion, a single server can have multiple socket, and each socket can have multiple cores. So one of the CPU E7 processor that we were referring to can have 24 cores on a single processor. So if your motherboard has 4 sockets, each core 24, it is close to 100 processors is what we can have on a single server. So of that, on a single server you can have 480. I have never seen in my life a server with 480, but ESXi servers support that kind of scalability. And now uh, 12 TB is a RAM that your ESX supports. Okay, so 12 TB, do you guys ever seen a server with 12 TB RAM? I'm not talking about storage. We all have got our laptops with 4 GB, 8 GB of RAM. I'm talking about 12 TB, guys. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Yeah, of course. And then it supports 64 TB of storage. You may ask me a question, Venkat, in all other areas, if I see there is enhancements done in terms of scalability, but why is it not in the storage area? It's the same in both the versions. Well, there is a logic for this. I mean, why there is no improvement in the storage is because in vSphere 5.5 and in vSphere 6.0, the file system version is same, that is VMFS 5. So the scalability of a storage is at the VMFS file system level. That's the reason there is no enhancement. I mean, there is no lift in the scalability of the storage capacity. Okay, and then your maximum virtual machine on a single ESX server, you can have 512 virtual machines here, and here on 1000 virtual machines per ESX server. Don't get confused, guys. This is 4000 virtual machines per cluster. Right, in a cluster you can have 32 nodes, so 4000 virtual machines per cluster and 512 virtual machines per ESX server, and each virtual machine can have 64 virtual CPUs. Here it is 128. Again, don't confuse with 480 and 128. 480 is at the ESX level. On ESX you can create multiple virtual machines. Getting me? You can create a multiple virtual machine. So each virtual machine can have up to 128 virtual CPUs. And of course, each RAM can have 1 TB of RAM. Each virtual machine can have 1 TB of RAM earlier. It is now 4 TB. A VM with fault tolerance. Fault tolerance is a feature. So you can have 1 CPU. Now it is lifted to 4 CPUs. That is about your scalability, guys. Okay. So maybe, I mean, you may have to go through this particular numbers or the KB articles couple of times. You memorize all these numbers. That's when you may probably understand. But just for your idea and understanding. Well, now that you understand the basics of virtualization, basics of the ESXi, the roots of it, where is it coming from and all that, try to understand the ESXi requirements, I mean the minimum requirements. On the earlier slide you saw the maximums. Let's understand the minimum. If somebody asks you, hey, how much can you eat? Maximum, minimum. Hey, minimum at least I need a bun or a burger. Maximum I may eat 10 burgers a day. I need at least a KFC bucket to live a day. Maximum I can have at least 10 buckets a day, right? So there is always minimum and maximum. So uh, ESXi requirements, the minimum requirements is probably this is what you need in order to get this ESX installed on your machine as well. Okay, so well, you need a compatible hardware. Okay, to make sure the compatibility of the hardware, you always go to this particular site. Okay, this site probably tells you what version of ESX you wanted to install. Let's say 6.0. Is that is that a rack server? Is that a rack mountable server? Is that a tower server? Is that a blade server? What is that you wanted to install? Let's say blade server. And what CPU are you actually looking at? Let me check, where is it? Yeah, how many processors do you got? 2. Okay, what processor is that? Is that AMD or Intel? What processor is that? Okay, probably you may choose one of the processor that you are actually looking for. Okay, and you say view result. So based on your selection criteria, it says if that is compatible or not. You have this kind of Cisco UCS B230 is a model that is available from Cisco. You have got HP BL620 is a model available from HP. Lenovo, you have got this. So based on your criteria, it will give you the compatible hardware. So then looking at the model, you can just go there and place an order for this model. And it also gives you what version that it supports. Getting me? You have got 6.0 here. You've got 6.0 here, 6.0 here. Right? That's a nice feature about the VMware. Well, so you have to look always the compatibility of your server. And then from a CPU standpoint, you at least need 2 CPU cores. Remember guys, it is saying cores, not the processors, not the sockets. At least 2 cores. So and then that CPU must be of 64-bit. So those who are from the computer background, they know the processor architecture is normally available 32-bit, 64-bit. Now the engineers are working in bringing the 128-bit processors as well. Okay, so but it is a 64-bit processor is what it is required. 32-bit is not supported, and you must have the NX or XD. NX is no execute, XD is execute disable. If it is an Intel processor, you have got NX feature. If it is an AMD processor, you have got XD, execute disable. These two are related to the memory in the CPU. Okay, so you probably have to enable them if you have those feature. But if you do not have this feature, that's fine, leave it. But you at least need two processor with 64-bit processing, 64-bit processor architecture. Okay, and must and should, you should have the Intel VT or AMD RVI feature enabled in the BIOS. If this VT feature is not enabled, you cannot install the ESX server. Simple. So all your i5, i7 processors have got this VT enabled. I mean, at least you have got this VT functionality. You may have to go to BIOS and enable it if it is not enabled by default. But all your i5, i7 processors have this VT functionality. This is from a CPU standpoint. Moving on, you at least need 4 GB of RAM, 8 GB is recommended. If you do not have 4 GB of RAM, you cannot install ESX, simple. Okay, and you at least need one network adapter in order to install ESX server, one network adapter. If no network adapter, you cannot. Coming to storage, ESXi is called as a stateless server, meaning you can install your ESX even on your USB hard disk as well. I mean USB pen drive as well. Okay, even 1 GB of storage is sufficient to install your ESX, because the ESX operating system is about 200 MB is what I said. Okay, but if you have some, let's say some 10 GB or 15 GB, that is good, because you can have the logs captured into the local hard disk and you can audit through if at all something went wrong in your environment. Okay, so but normally what we do is we at least have some 100 GB of hard disk to install ESX server in a real-time environment. Okay, so that's about that. Those are the 4 critical hardware resources that you need to have in place. 2 processors with 64-bit architecture and Intel VT enabled. 4 GB minimum or 8 GB is recommended RAM. 1 network adapter, maybe some 40-50 GB of hard disk. That is all you need to install your ESX server. Okay, so and then there are different ways of installing your ESX server. You can install using using the interactive installation. So interactive installation is like you have the bootable CD or DVD or pen drive with you. You put it to the CD. You put it to the server the same way that you have done your 2012 operating system installation, the interactive installation. Okay, and then you have got your scripted installation, meaning like I said, you will write a script and that will install your ESX server. The third way is your auto deploy, which is another tool that you need to configure in order to get the auto deploy installed. Okay, these are the 3 ways that are available. So tomorrow I'll be going ahead and installing the ESXi server on my workstation, so that you can also refer to it and you can practice in your lab, guys. And the post installation steps are something that we've covered tomorrow. This is all I have for you today. Once again, thank you all for joining today, and